I'm Erica Lynn, and we all know the ocean is the most demanding environment on Earth, consistently testing the reliability and durability of our equipment. When you spend as much time fishing as I do, you know that reliable gear is essential for staying on the water. This is why I went with the Abyss battery to power my trolling motor, electronics, and outboard. The guys at Abyss Battery are rattling the saltwater industry by manufacturing performance marine batteries specifically designed for sonar, outboards, trolling motors, and electronic fishing reels. They're also Bluetooth compatible, so I found checking battery statuses right on your phone while you're out on the water is a huge game changer. To learn more about why Abyss batteries are used by the pros and factory installed by premier boat builders, visit abyssbattery.com.
Hello and welcome to the Publicly Challenged Podcast. I'm your host, Luke Oswald, and I hope you join me on my quest for knowledge to become a better public land hunter, angler, and forager. Stick with this and who knows, maybe we will learn something together. Okay, so I'm sitting here and I'm talking to Gina Shively. And Gina, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Gina. Sorry. Lots of people call me Wild Well Fed from Instagram. And yeah.
So you have a website, right, where you create recipes and different low carb, high fat content for different hunting meals and things like that, right?
Yeah, I have my little food blog. I've been kind of neglecting the poor thing lately, but yeah, I like to share recipes. I'm really into the low carb, high fat right now. It's been working well. So most of them are along those lines.
So how does the low carb, high fat type, like a ketogenic-ish, we'll call it, diet work when you're hunting versus your normal, carbs that you're taking in?
Yeah, so I originally started looking into it because a gram of fat will give you twice the calories as protein or carbs will. And when you're backpack hunting, you count ounces. So it made sense to bring the most dense caloric food you could, just to get the weight down. I'm not a real big person, and so any weight I can get out of my backpack is huge for me. And then also, as I got more fat adapted and I started training, I started getting more of the health benefits from it as well. And I'm able to push myself harder while I am in the field when I feed myself properly, as opposed to just eating like Snickers bars. Not that there's not a time and place for that, but I feel better and I'm carrying less weight. So that's really how I got into it.
No, I always feel better when I eat obviously healthy. I try to eat pretty clean. It's either like Whole30-ish or Paleo-ish, we'll call it.
Yeah.
But I think my biggest vice is probably candy and sugar. It's definitely the hardest thing for me. But in the backcountry, I figured, hey, you know what? That's okay. A little bit extra candy here and there won't hurt, right?
Yeah.
It'll give me that extra carbs, even though it's probably not the carbs that my body needs. But I'm just kind of curious then, versus the protein, is the fat, I mean, how does your body process that or metabolize that versus the fat? Do you really have to be in like a ketosis state in order for that to work well?
You don't have to be in the state of ketosis to burn fat well. It is easier, processing protein is a little bit more complicated, takes a little bit more work. But once you've trained your body to run on fat, it does it really, really efficiently. And you don't get the big swings that you would from sugar where you're hangry or, where you're gotta eat now.
Right.
So it's more sustained and more level fuel, I guess. And it does take a little bit of work to get into it. I would never recommend someone just only pack butter on their first outing, you're going to be hurting. And protein is really important. I think there's a time and a place for protein and carbs, but it is a more sustained energy and it creates less inflammation, which is also really nice when you're pushing yourself really hard.
Right. I saw one of the things that you were talking about was some of the essentials besides the food to pack with you as far as supplements. Could you talk about that, what they are and why you need it?
Yeah. When you're in the backcountry, you're asking a lot out of your body. So you want to give it everything that it needs so that it can perform as well as you can, especially if it's day in and day out. If you're just going to go out and work really hard for one day, it's not as important. But, a sheep hunt is 10 plus days. So, it's asking a lot of your body. Supplements. Let me think. I bring turmeric tablets just to help deal with inflammation because you're beating up your body. I bring spirulina tablets, which is like an algae, which is just like concentrated nutrients. And when you take them, you kind of get like a little boost of energy, which is kind of nice. But just trying to keep healthy while you're back in the backcountry. I think I also typically bring liver tablets just because it's like desiccated liver. They're like little, you can just swallow them because I don't really like eating liver, but it gives you lots of beans. I think it's kind of gross, but it's really good for you.
So do you make those then, or do you?
No,
or you purchase them?
That's one of the things I purchase. Yeah. I do try to grind up the liver into my hamburger though. So I bring those. They kind of give you B vitamins, just help you regenerate, after all the work. And I'm trying to think what I bring. I have also been, I've been bringing, I think it's On It. They make like a exercise thing. Oh my gosh, I should know this better. It helps. It just helps performance. It helps you utilize oxygen a little bit better.
So like a nitric oxide booster type supplement, maybe like beets extract, maybe.
No, and I think it has like mushrooms of some sort in it. So it's kind of like a adaptogen.
Okay.
Thing. I could look it up. What is it called? Oh my gosh, I should know that. Sorry. I only take it when I'm sheep hunting, but I kind of get like a little boost from that as well. I think those are the main ones that I take, just kind of give myself like a well-rounded nutrients while I'm in the backcountry.
That's one thing I'm just starting to get into is like the medicinal side or the health benefit side of mushrooms. And there's so much out there. It's pretty cool.
I know. It's like a really deep topic. You could like study that forever.
I was so excited. I told my wife, I was like, I found some turkey tail. I'm going to make some capsules. So
you definitely should. Turkey tail would be awesome.
Yeah. So got that going. Got my reishi that a friend sent me a bottle of the tincture of that. So that's pretty cool. Boost my immune system.
Yeah, I think turkey tail is really good for immune too, right?
I believe it's good for immune system as well as anti-cancer properties it has.
Yeah.
So that's huge.
Right.
So yeah, I was just talking to a guy at work about that actually. But so anyway, so let's talk about foraging then. You're kind of a noob yourself, right? But so how many can you safely or successfully identify right now?
Oh, less than 10. Yeah, 7. Yeah.
7? Okay.
Maybe a couple extras if you throw berries in there.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Berries, mushrooms, right? That's like
I haven't gotten mushrooms yet. Like that's still, yeah.
So you're located in Alaska. We didn't really intro that part. That's pretty important because that's pretty cool. It's a great place to be.
It's an awesome place to be.
So how is the mushroom hunting? I mean, have you heard from other people as far as in Alaska how that is? There's probably not like a super long season for springtime mushrooms, right?
People do it, and I know there's chaga here, so I keep looking in trees for that. That's the only one I know they're here. I think like chicken of the woods is another one. I'm just like a little too chicken, like to try.
Sulphurus latiolus or something like that. Something pretty close. That's chicken of the woods, but awesome. We could talk more about that later, but so anyway, you're also getting your pilot's license, which is pretty cool. I've always wanted to do that myself, studied up on it a little bit, but then just ran out of time. But so can you talk about that and how far you are now?
Sure. I have my private pilot's license right now. I'm currently working on my instrument rating. I just flew today. So yeah, I'm hitting that pretty hard, the ground school and trying to fly every day and just get experience at this point. Hopefully soon I'll be a commercial pilot.
Are you okay? So you want to be a commercial pilot, like a bush pilot up in Alaska, or what do you want to do?
I think I want to fly the bigger planes. Pays better. It's safer.
Right.
Yeah. But I would like to own my own plane because there's so many places up here that are only accessible with a plane. And I think it'd be, if you live in Alaska and you're a pilot, you might as well.
Right. Right. So I saw you were wearing in one of your social media posts, you were wearing these wool bibs.
Oh yeah.
So at first I looked and I go, oh, she's a G. Fred Aspel fan. And I was like, wait a minute, maybe not. And then I read the post and it was Woolrich or something, but
It's Filson.
Filson. Yeah.
Yes.
So if you haven't heard, it's a traditional archer called Fred Aspel.
I should
And
write this down.
there's Aspel wool up in Michigan, I believe, or maybe Pennsylvania. But either way, he makes custom pieces of hunting gear that are traditional style wool.
Oh,
Pretty cool.
yeah. I could definitely get into that.
So yeah, my buddy's got one of his coats and his bibs and claims they're the greatest thing ever. So you might want to look into that. Figured I'd bring that up.
Like, sorry, Ryan, I have to buy another $500 pair of pants.
So, okay, let's talk about that. Does your husband hunt as well?
Yeah.
So who started hunting first? I mean, have you like always hunted your whole life, or is it something you got into later?
Yeah, I grew up in Wyoming. So, and my dad was a hunter. We did more like hunting from the truck, it wasn't,
Right.
I did antelope hunting. I did some bird hunting. So I kind of did a little bit of that down there. And then when I moved to Alaska, I got into sheep hunting because when you're in Alaska, why not?
Yeah.
And my husband did grow up hunting too, but he didn't try sheep hunting until he met me.
So now,
Yeah.
okay, let's talk about the sheep hunting. How long have you been doing that? Because that's something that seems pretty cool.
I've been on 4 sheep hunts, but they've been kind of spread over like 10 years, I want to say. Kids kind of, put a break on that for a while.
I can understand that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like hard to sheep hunt when you're pregnant or something. But yeah, so I've been on 4 sheep hunts and 3 of them were successful, but yeah,
So
10 years.
let's talk about that a little bit, getting into the sheep hunting. So in Alaska, if you're a resident, how does that work versus a non-resident? A non-resident, you have to have a guide, right?
Correct. Or be with next to kin.
Okay.
But as a resident, you can just get an over-the-counter tag. I have been really lucky, and I've drawn 2 really great tags. So I've been super, super lucky. And that gives you access to a certain area. But this year, I went on an over-the-counter sheep hunt, which was great.
Yes. And I
like...
believe I saw that. And you went with, I can't remember her name, but I know who she is from Outdoor Journey. And was it her husband or something?
No, it was Courtney and Zach Kinner. I met him on Instagram. But yeah.
Well, she has a podcast, right?
Yeah, she does have a podcast.
Okay.
Yeah,
yes.
She's a badass.
So you guys went on a sheep hunt. There was all kinds of crazy stuff. Saw something. There was a picture of you guys huddled under a piece of like rock or an overhang or something.
Yeah, we called it a cave, but that's probably being a little generous. One of the nights we went after some sheep. Well, we started in the day and we went after sheep and left our tent behind to be a little bit lighter. And we got there and the sheep were there, but they were just in a place that we couldn't get to them. They kind of have a tendency to be on the top of cliffs. And so we kind of had to decide, do we go back to camp and lose all that time, or do we stay there and hopefully get a shot? And it was like the last day we could hunt because we knew we only had 10 days of food going in. So our time was limited. So we knew we only had so many days because we still had to pack it out. And so we decided to sleep in a cave, it was, without sleeping bags or anything. And then in the morning we woke up and it worked, they're still there. So it was worth it, but it was definitely kind of an adventure.
So then what day was that on the hunt?
I think we slept in the cave night 5.
So how bad was the stench in that cave then?
By then you're used to it. I don't know. Like every once in a while you get a little whiff and you're like, wait, is that me? But you get kind of used to your filth.
If it was day 9 or something, I imagine it'd probably be a little bit worse.
Yeah, it got worse. Yeah, definitely. You had some weight to the packs and it was pretty warm.
So did you, you were carrying a bow and a rifle, right?
I was carrying my bow. I've always wanted to get a sheep with a bow. And then Zach was carrying the rifle just in case. And we kind of had to make the decision between coming home with nothing or using the rifle. So I ended up taking him with a rifle just because where he was, there was not a sneak on him with a bow and we didn't have any extra time. But I really want to get a sheep with a bow.
So I'm guessing then your preferred weapon of choice is a bow for hunting then.
I'm just getting into archery and hunting. And I'm not sure there's a bad way to go hunting, but it's just always kind of been a dream of mine to get a sheep with a bow. I feel like it's next level.
That's true. I don't know hardly anything about sheep hunting. So, but and I don't at this stage in my life, I don't even know if it's even possible right now. But
Sure it is. Yeah, you can do
well,
it.
I don't know about that. That's a lot of time, especially right now. How's it going with the whole quarantine thing? I mean, are people required to quarantine for like 14 days before they can even go anywhere or do anything?
Yeah, if you come in from another state, I think that is in Alaska, we're super lucky because we've been isolated. We isolated pretty quick and we're just naturally kind of isolated. So they're starting to open things up. They're kind of starting to open up restaurants and things like that. So they're loosening up, which is great. But
Yeah, we're not. We
yeah.
are not. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool though. So, how? I mean, like, so you go on these hunts, you pack. How are you preparing for that? Like, what are you doing as far as like training, and then what are you doing as far as like stuff in your pack for meals and things like that?
Yeah. So as far as training, I try to do strength training semi-regularly, and a lot of hiking. Last year I did a lot of hiking, but I'd be carrying a kid, but then I'd also be going like at my 4-year-old's pace. So, you just kind of do the best that you
Yeah.
can. And I'm not sure you can ever be totally prepared to go sheep hunting. So you just get in the best shape you can, lots of hiking. I did so many lunges just like up and down the driveway, just wherever I could. I do like strength training also. And then as far as packing your bag, you need everything for 10 days. So you're going to need your shelter. It gets cold. You need clothes, anything that has to do with your weapon. I packed in like arrows and, you need ammunition if you have a gun cleaning stuff because it's going to get wet. First aid kit, 10 days of food, which I like having about 3,000 calories per day. I'm a pretty big eater. Man, I don't know. The pack always is bigger than you think it's going to be. You're like, you just keep adding stuff in and then you do like an audit and you take everything out that you don't need and, trying to keep the weight down going in. But
So at like day one, have you ever weighed your pack or you just take it and
yeah,
go with it?
it's usually about 60 to 70 pounds
Whew,
with
that's a lot.
everything.
Yeah.
That's including like water, a couple liters of water. And I always count the weapon that I'm bringing too. People say they get it lighter, but I'm always very suspicious of, like if they're not counting anything. And I always bring a tent, which some people are into the tent shelters, but I've been in some pretty gnarly weather. So I don't think I would do that. But
So what kind of elevation is it in Alaska then when you're doing the sheep hunting? Is it like 6,000, 9,000?
I don't think it's 9,000. It's pretty great because all of our mountains start pretty low. So it's not like I'm from Wyoming where everything starts up high,
Right. Right.
And I know whenever I go back there, I'm always like, oh my God, I can't breathe anymore. I'm like, I got so weak. Yeah, like 6,000, I want to say. Someone's probably listening to this and thinks I'm an idiot. But yeah, it's not super high just because all the mountains start so low.
Okay. Yeah.
But you're definitely above tree line.
So cool though.
Most of the time.
I wonder if it'd be easier to acclimate than, coming from like the Midwest where I'm at to acclimate to, the mountain ranges of Alaska versus when you're out in Colorado and you end
for
up
sure.
at like, 11, 12, 13,000.
They have 14-foot like mountains that people just hike normally. Yeah. No, it'd be way easier coming from a lower state to hike in Alaska for sure.
Cool. That's definitely cool. So then I want to break it down a little bit more about your meals that you're making and packing. So you do dehydrated versus freeze dried, and is that just kind of like the availability thing of a freeze dryer? Because I know a lot of people are doing it right now.
Yeah, right.
I'm trying to convince my wife into buying a freeze dryer, but she's like, "You're nuts," But
I think it'd be cool to own one, but it's a big investment.
yeah.
I think they're like $2,000-$3,000 as opposed to dehydrator.
400, 500. Yeah.
If that. I think you
Yeah.
get them for like 100. I don't know, because I have like a hand-me-down dehydrator that's like older than I am, but
Right.
they're they it still works. It's great. I mean, it's a really simple machine, but they're so much more affordable. So that was
Yeah.
kind of
I
how I
think
did that.
I can't really use mine because I can't put, well, I guess I could, but it's one of the old circle ones. It's the
Yeah.
round ones. That's what I've got. And it's like, man, everybody's using parchment paper and sliding it right into the trays.
Yeah.
It
Parchment
sucks.
paper
But they've got
is
the
great.
nice square trays, or the rectangular trays, and they're just putting the parchment right on it and doing it. But so how do you go about doing the meals like you're prepping?
I usually just kind of start with a recipe. It's usually something that I normally kind of eat. And things like stews and chilies are kind of like a good starting place. And then I'll usually dehydrate them, and I like to test them out before I take them, on a long trip. It's always a good idea to test your food before you take it out into the backcountry to make sure it sits well with you and it tastes good. So I'll just make like a curry or, a stew or something like that, which is super easy. Dehydrate it, and then I have little Mylar bags. I've gone fancier, and then I put it in there.
So when you're doing it though, I mean, you have to like make it way thicker than like a real loose stew, right? I mean, because
Yeah, I
so
mean, especially if you don't have like a tray. If you had to get to like set on like a mesh tray, it'd have to be a lot thicker. But you want it to be as thick as you can get it before you put it in. Just is going to save a lot of time dehydrating too.
so are you gonna cook it down like in the pan then, or your pot or whatever you're cooking it in?
I
Just
cook it
keep
down
going.
a little bit, or I just won't add as much liquid to start out with. You
Okay.
just like use your basic ingredients like your ground meat, your onions, your vegetables, and you just add enough liquid just to like get the yummy brown stuff off the bottom of the pan and kind of like cook it a little bit.
Hmm.
And then you don't have that much extra liquid.
So then when you rehydrate it, is that where the extra liquid would come in then? Or is it
Yeah.
just, yeah.
And I always try to put as much liquid as I can when I'm rehydrating because it rehydrates faster. And I'm always dehydrated. Sometimes it's hard to drink enough water when you're there, especially if you're cold. I never drink enough water when I'm cold. So it's like nice to have the extra warm liquid.
So, I mean, what's like kind of a rule of thumb then for the amount of water to add to one of your meals that you do? Is there anything that you figured out or no?
Nope. I just go for it. I usually figure I buy like Mylar bags, and I want my dinners to be about 900 calories. And sometimes I add fats to those to get that up there. And then I just put as much liquid as the bag will hold. It's usually about 2 cups. Um, that's what a jet boil holds. So it's usually about 2 cups,
Yeah.
but I'm like, I need water.
So how do you measure out or figure out the calorie amount that you're after you dehydrate it into a certain portion? Are you keeping it separated or something when you're measuring it out, or how do you do that?
Spreadsheets. I will. Spreadsheets are your best friend. I'll make a spreadsheet with like the recipe, and I'll figure each recipe is going to be like however many servings. It just seems to be like 3 because a pound of meat goes into about 3 servings usually for me. And then just how many ingredients I put in, and I divide by the number of servings, and it kind of gives me an idea. Yeah, spreadsheets. Lots and lots of spreadsheets.
Very, very interesting. I don't know. I want to try it, but I'm kind of scared or nervous, and I know like the freeze drying aspect of it just seems like a little
It's so
more cut
easy.
and dry to me, but maybe it's not. I don't know.
It's so easy. You can do it. It's you like you make a stew, you put it in the dehydrator, you go.
How long is that like the average time then for the dehydration? Like, I mean, you going for like 14 hours dehydration, or how long does it take?
Yeah,
Is it a long
it kind
time?
of depends on the recipe. It is a long time, and I usually just do it overnight, and then you kind of wake up in the morning and see where it is. Maybe break up some big chunks. But yeah, it's a while, and it kind of depends on what temperature you do it at and how much is in your dehydrator, and what you put in it. But it varies. I never really time it. I'm not that crazy.
Just wing
But
it. So
yeah,
the consensus is just wing it then.
yes,
Okay,
you're
perfect.
fine. It's food. You're good. You've been feeding yourself for a while, so yeah.
This is true. That's true.
Have fun with it.
Right. So you've been working with Heather's Choice or for them for a little bit and kind of doing some stuff.
Yeah.
What have you been doing there?
Right now I'm doing some recipe development for Heather's Choice. And that's mainly what I'm doing. I've gone to a couple shows and worked the booth just because that's a really good time. Sheep show is so fun. And
So I saw you took some of your meals to Sheep Show that you dehydrated yourself, I think.
yes,
Is that right?
yes. I sometimes when I travel, I bring dehydrated meals with me because they travel so easily and they're like healthy and they're fast, and then you don't have to worry about food later on.
Right.
Um,
That's a
I
good idea.
also I did a little bit of flight training down in Utah, and I brought almost all my food down with me because I knew I was going to be busy and I didn't have to worry about like cooking in the Airbnb. So they're kind of just handy to have, actually.
Yeah. So so you do a recipe. I'm kind of embarrassed to admit it, but I've never eaten a Heather's Choice meal.
You should try them.
Well, I kind of got turned off because like the first couple meals that they had were like different mackerel or salmon or whatever they were, and I was just
The
like,
smoked
man,
salmon.
yeah, I don't know
Yeah.
what it
Yeah.
was. And there was a couple of them, and the one was some type of chili or something. And all the reviews I read, people are like, I don't think it's exactly one you want with you in the backcountry as far as this.
Really?
Yeah, I don't remember what it was though, but so yeah, it just kind of it kind of turned me away from it, and I was like, I don't know. And that's kind of the food or the style of food I'm looking for, maybe minus the fish or something. I'm not a huge fish guy. I know that's
You
sad
know,
to say, but
yeah, so the smoked salmon chowder is one of their best-selling meals and it has like a ton of protein, but I don't like fishy soup. Like
right,
it's not for everyone. Like people who love salmon love it, but then it's my hang up. I just like if you don't like salmon, you're not going to like it because it's like a ton of salmon. I mean, I think it has like 50 grams of protein or something in it. Like it's crazy. And people love it, but if it's not for you, it's not for you.
right. So that's
So,
kind of where my bugaboo, my hang up was
yeah.
on that.
Well, and that's where testing stuff out before you go
Right.
into the backcountry comes in. Like you want to try that because you don't want to be back there and be like, man, I really don't like this, and or oh man, it just doesn't sit right with me. So it's good to that's where trying stuff out really comes in.
Yes. And there's a few other meals out there that I don't really eat too many of them anymore because the sodium content and
Yeah.
I kind of over the past year or so I don't eat grains anymore. So it's like, man, that's super tough to get a
Yeah.
backcountry meal like that you can do that. And I've been looking at Heather's Choice more and more, but still, like I said, I'm not a salmon guy.
Yeah, I
More
wouldn't recommend the chowder then. It's very salmony, which is
so
great if you like it. But
hopefully you guys are devising some more recipes pretty soon. You're working on something
we're
that
working on some. Yeah.
okay, good. And then the whole pack of runes, I have made my own of those though. So
Nice.
I
They're
was
so yummy.
yes. I think I told you that they were I did cocoa nibs and
Yes.
cherries and coconut. I think I used lime or something. It was a
Oh yeah.
it was a great
That sounds great.
combination though. It was a great
Yeah. Especially like
combination.
the crunch from the cocoa nibs. That'd be amazing.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, what kind of like crazy things have you encountered then as far as like on the sheep hunts? Like just you ever had to wait out any gnarly storms or lightning
Oh yeah.
displays or what? I mean,
Not
I have no
lightning
idea.
yet.
What's it like?
Yeah, I've definitely been like stuck in my tent for a couple days at a time because of weather, especially like when the ceilings, if it gets really foggy, you can't see any of the sheep. So you just kind of like hang out in your tent for a couple days and things get real weird. You get a little crazy in your tent. I've definitely 2 years ago on my sheep hunt, the wind came up. There was like a huge windstorm that came through Alaska, and I'd actually shot my sheep that day. So we're like coming back with really full packs and like hoping the tent's still there. And it actually survived. It's like will never be quite the same. It's kind of bent up, but yeah, definitely windstorms, snow. Yeah, you encounter a lot of weather. I haven't done lightning yet, thankfully, but a lot of weather, a lot of rain. It's typically very wet and cold.
So when you get the tag, is it you're only going out for like 10 days or is it one of those things to where say you could go back, it's like a month-long season
Yeah,
or
it kind of
something?
depends. Some of the tags that you draw have very specific dates that you can hunt, like they're only like 2 weeks long. I haven't been able to go much longer than 10 days just because like the amount of food you carry and like people getting time off of work. my first sheep hunt, and we went in with like 20 days of food. We were like, we're going bust, like, so it's a decently long season. You could go back out if you had people to go with you, or you don't have to work, or you could carry enough food. Typically,
have all those other silly things that just get in
yeah,
the way.
yeah, all those real life practical things.
Yeah,
But
it's terrible.
yeah,
Terrible. So, yeah, I don't know. So, you got any other plans then, as far as hunts going on, like coming up? Anything special?
not really. And who knows what's going on now in the world. This year I was kind of thinking that it was my turn to help somebody else pack up an animal. I've really always been the one harvesting the animal, so I think it's my turn to pay it back. I had plans actually with Courtney to hopefully get her a moose or a caribou, but now we're not sure about the traveling situation. So I kind of want to get a bear in the next couple of weeks, but that's, I don't know. I'm not really in a season of my life where I'm planning. I'm taking it by ear, but I would love to go out again, and I just think it's my turn to help someone take an animal and carry it out for them. So that's kind of my next plan.
Very generous. Yeah. But, so, yeah, I mean, have you been on a caribou hunt yourself then? I mean,
yeah. It was actually the first hunt I did up in Alaska before I was a resident. I did a caribou off the Hull Road.
That's awesome. That's one of my like lifetime goal trips is to do the Hull Road.
And, I don't recommend with a rifle. It was kind of hellish.
Because rifle's what, like 2 miles from the road or something?
5.
Like that? 5. Ooh.
Which doesn't sound that far, but on tundra, we ended up getting 2 down 7 miles off the road, and I ended up like hurting my leg, and it's just now getting better after like 10 years. It was pretty brutal.
You heard it on the pack out then?
Yeah, just the suction of like the tundra like holds onto your foot, and just like trying to pull it out. It was Bring
what
a bow.
Do they call that, like the gumbo or something? Or what's the term for that?
The gumbo. I like that. It's probably like that. Tundra muskags? I don't know. Yeah, it was just that tundra on the North Slope is brutal.
Yeah.
You're like, 5 miles. That's not bad, but it is. It's really bad.
5 miles is like my limit just about anywhere.
My sheep last year was 30 miles from the road, and that was easier.
30 miles is a lot. So that was like over the course of the 5 days you traveled that though, right?
It took us 4 days to pack them out. Yeah. 4 pretty long days.
Whew, that's brutal.
It was pretty hard. Courtney and Zach are beasts. It was good. There was a lot of elevation change too, which you don't get that as much on the tundra, but
right.
A lot of rocky places.
Yeah, I totally want to do that though. I want to do archery. I think I don't really have any goals for anything with a rifle as far as hunting. Everything in my head, I picture it with my bow. It's just and truthfully, I mean, there's some things I want to do, and I want to do it with the traditional bow. And I know I'm not there in my place in my life yet, but
right, that's like next level. I've only taken one animal with a bow, and it was like a goat in Hawaii, so I'm not even sure if that counts. And I'm like, man,
why doesn't a goat in Hawaii count?
I don't know. It was like a half-day hunt. I don't know. It was like so many.
Yeah, I hear they're pretty easy there, but
yeah, there was just so many of them, and it was like great. And I was there with my dad, which was extra special. But it was fun. I highly recommend it. I just don't think I can really call myself an archery hunter for doing that.
What kind of goat was it? Like a Barbary?
No, I think they're Spanish goats.
Spanish goat. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I'm like, someday I'll be an archery. Yeah, it was great.
I'll admit, it's not something I really would do too much anymore, but I have been to a few hunting ranches, mostly for, people catch feral hogs and release them on these ranches, and you go do it, and it's like a big social type, outing, and you and your buddies and everybody goes. And we did that for a bachelor party of mine, actually. And then, so we were all doing that, and my cousin was having the hardest time trying to get a pig, and he couldn't get one. He was getting discouraged, and by the end, he was saying, "You know what? If I can't get one, I'm just gonna get a goat." And it just so happened that they had these goats there, and one was, some type of Spanish Hawaiian goat, whatever it was, and then there was I can't remember what the other one was, but they were almost so tame. from nobody hunting them for so long that you could. I was like, well, here, let me go put some feed on your barrel and see if you can go do it. So I kind of get what you're saying about the goat hunt because of
these
that,
goats weren't quite that. They were definitely a little skittish, but yeah. You hear people getting like brown bears and like sheep with their bows, and I'm like, I'm not that hardcore yet. Nope.
One day, maybe.
One day,
right?
it will happen. Yeah.
It
takes a lot of luck.
Yeah,
Skill.
I'd like to do like a spring bear hunt somewhere and use a bow, but that's probably next to impossible. I don't know.
I don't think so. I almost had a shot on a bear last year, in Montana. I think people do it. Maybe I'll get one this year. Yeah. I think it's mostly luck as far as I can tell. Like there's skill involved, but things also just have to work just perfect. You
got to be at the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
Maybe. I don't know, but I'll have to look into that more, I guess.
Yeah.
But I guess that's kind of all the questions I have for you today. Can you tell people where they can find you or reach out to you for anything?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram at wildwellfed. My blog is wildandwellfed.com. Those are probably the best places. I'm on Instagram more than my blog these days. Just that I've kind of neglected that with flight school. But yeah, those are probably the best ways.
All right. I appreciate you coming on and talking to me.
Thanks for having me.
Telling me about the freeze-dried or dehydrated. Sorry. I got a freeze-dryer on my brain and I don't know why, but
yeah.
Thanks for teaching me that I can do it myself and wing it.
Yeah, you absolutely can.
And I appreciate it. So thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And once again, thank you so much for listening to the Publicly Challenged podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please subscribe on whatever platform it is you're listening to. Also, if you could leave a review, that would help us out. And you can check us out on Instagram or at publiclychallenged.com. And once again, thank you so much for listening to the show.